Hey folks, back again with another vlog. This is Dirty Pair, episode 10, something about kidnappers. I don't remember exactly. And this was not a great episode. It was an okay episode, but by Dirty Pair standards, it was not great. It just kind of fell apart once they got out into the desert, you know? Like, the opening parts were good. The premise was good. The idea of let's drop the Dirty Pair into essentially, medieval fantasy. Kings and princes and succession crises and, the good prince and the evil usurper, and we got to make sure the good prince is safe so that he can take the throne. That kind of stuff. But and early on they do some really good stuff with it, like the way, Kay changes how she talks. The subtitles I was watching didn't do a great job of conveying it, but Yuri's reactions made it pretty clear that Kay was switching to a more formal mode of speech, which is, Japanese rather notoriously has very complex layers of politeness and formality and different levels of formality you can use in addressing people. And Yuri's reaction shows clearly Kay was being uncharacteristically polite and formal. Deferential even. And that's her taking on, sort of the way last episode they were, cowboys and bounty hunters. This episode, Kay is trying to be, the courtly knight errant coming to be given a quest to protect the prince. And, the usual, one of the girls wants to, one of the girls has the romantic interest of the week that's going to go horribly wrong in some way. This one fell weirdly flat. Like, the joke of, oh, he's a prince, he's going to be good and handsome and a great partner, and I'll rescue him, and it'll be, a inverted damsel in distress kind of thing, and he'll love me, and, that's a gag that can work. The Slayers, in their first season, did a really good job with that gag. And they could have done that here, with, he's 12. But it just kind of went because they only had a very little bit of it build up and then immediately went to the he's 12. And the reaction was kind of, oh well. Like, the joke kind of fizzled. And I feel like that then set the tone for the rest of the episode. It fizzled. They go to, they rescue the boy, and that was good. That was, they just had the bad luck to happen. They were doing their jobs. They weren't found out or anything. It was totally unrelated to them that Duke, what's-his-face, knew to go after the prince. They just had the bad luck of being there when it blew up. Having the bad luck of being there when it blew up is kind of Dirty Pair stock in trade. But nothing. After that point, it's just kind of, the prince is, the prince is okay. A very lackluster kind of, the police turning on them thing. Like, why did those two guys report them as imposters who kidnapped the prince. They certainly didn't seem to react that way at the time. I feel like, was this episode running long and they cut some things? Like maybe they cut Duke whatever paying those guys off to say that he was kidnapped? Or something? That was really kind of left very... Like, it's not that you have to show everything that happens, because then every show would be 1 billion hours long. But I feel like they were cutting out the wrong things, and as a result, story beats weren't landing right. Like, we do need to know why those dudes turned them in, or at least have some inkling, some hint toward it. You know, are they fame hounds? You know, there are plausible explanations, but there's nothing suggesting any kind of duplicity on their part, and yet they have that inexplicable turnaround. Like, that does need an explanation if a character, like, just sort of reverses their attitude out of nowhere. And then they go and crash in the desert, and then... I feel like... So I feel like this is sort of like the dwarf thing. And I can't remember if I've talked about this in a video before, but... So... Tolkien's dwarves share a lot of common features, and as a result, a lot of dwarves throughout fantasy, they share a lot of common features with anti-Semitic stereotypes. Because he's uncritically borrowing his ideas of dwarves from sources that employ anti-Semitic stereotypes. There's this thing that happens where negative stereotypes of a particular group become character traits that are associated with the negative behaviors associated with that group, with the result that people will use those character traits as indicators. So, for example, the stereotype of what a miser looks and acts like is an anti-Semitic stereotype. But people will use that without realizing that, because they're just used to seeing misers depicted that way. So they're like, oh, these character traits signal miser. And like Tolkien then compounded that by trying to make deliberately making his dwarves have some elements of Judaism, that he was trying to be like a positive depiction of, you know, tough, strong, etc. people on a diaspora with a language that has, you know, similar phonemes to Hebrew. But the result is that, coupled with, you know, the result is you get people on a diaspora who have a language that's phonologically similar to Hebrew and are gold obsessed and really possessive and so on. You know, and I feel like there's something, anyway, you know, getting back to Dirty Pair, I feel like there's something a little like that going on here, where something about that group that rescues them and then turns on them is setting off alarm bells in regards to stereotypes of Romani people. Like, they're nomadic, they live in tents, they've got, you know, something about the way they dress is setting that off. The fact that they, you know, take you in and help you out and then betray you. Like, these are old, very ugly stereotypes of Romani peoples. And I think it's a case of these stereotypes have become so pervasively used again and again in fantasy that people are using them, not seeing them as Romani stereotypes, but seeing them as, oh, this is a character archetype. This is a kind of people you will find on your journey, you know? But it doesn't change that it's a problem, you know? Because, as always, intent is irrelevant. All that matters is what you do. And, like I said, this I'm a little less solid on than something like, you know, standard issue Fantasy Dwarves or the Frank Young Star Trek or something like that. I can't quite pin my finger on exactly what stereotypes they're deploying because I'm not as familiar with what the stereotypes are. I just feel like it's uncomfortable, you know? Like I said, setting off alarm bells. But that's just kind of generally the problem with the latter half of the episode, is that it's just stock fantasy stuff. And that's just not Dirty Pair. Like, they don't do anything interesting with it, and just at the point where it seems like they might, you know, the Dirty Pair got locked up, the boy, the prince, like, says he's gonna go on a field trip with the girl. There are very Dirty Pair things you could do with that. The girl kidnaps him, and the Dirty Pair have to rescue him. Or they later find out that he and the girl are, like, in love or whatever. Or turns out the field trip he and the girl are going on is springing the Dirty Pair out of jail, not because they think they're not kidnappers, but because they think they are, but they like them, so they want to help them. You know, they don't want them to go to jail. But the episode just stops with the reveal that the earring was in Kay's boot all along, which just makes Kay look dumb. Yeah, this one just didn't work for me. You know, I still love the series. Just this episode, you know, they can't all be gold. Especially in a 20 whatever episode season. I'm still looking forward to the next one. Hopefully it'll be better. Regardless, I'll see y'all next time. Bye.